You want to handle your dog or you want me to do it?
Oh no, we're just gonna tell me how you guys do it really quick.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we'll do that in a second here. Sit.
I'll take the dog out. I'll let them sniff each other if there's no aggression. So I'll have me and the dog owner walk the dog together.
Okay.
Kind of walk them together and then take them outside. And then I'll leave. I'll hold my dog or our dog on the leash. And they'll let their dog kind of explore and find out where they are.
Okay.
And then once that goes okay, I'll let them kind of sniff each other. And then, like, I'll let our dog go with the leash attached still, so I still have some control.
Okay.
Does
anybody else do anything differently? Okay, we're actually going to go outside to the fenced-in areas. Kind of do it a little bit of a different way. Normally start out with a barrier in between them. That way there's no leash. Leashes often bring behavior though. None of this is a friendly, I kind of want to play.
But he also isn't like
Nope, this is just pure dominance. This isn't aggression. What? Yep.
but he's not growling or anything.
Nope, and that's kind of a false indication. Not all of them will growl and bark.
Okay.
He would go after a dog. You wouldn't guess it. You might think it's okay because he's calm and ignoring. But he would go after a dog in a heartbeat if that dog didn't comply with what he wanted. He met a dog on Friday. Did fine because that dog let him do whatever he wanted. He could railroad the dog. You saw him paw. What is your dog's name?
Riley.
You saw him paw Riley. You saw him be a jerk. The marking now, all of this, he's like, no, this is me being completely dominant. Luckily, Riley is doing exactly, she's doing, Riley with a B, okay. Riley is doing perfect. This would be a dog that, again, she's probably going to get along with anything. Just because someone has a super dominant dog doesn't mean they can't have a second. It just means you have to be exact on the dog you put with them. All of his mannerisms, the head up. None of this is I'm gonna play.
Yeah.
And again, this is a marking too. Even though it's not the normal marking, this is all I'm going to do everything I can. And again, she doesn't care. She's completely ignoring everything. Which would be if I were to get a second dog, what I would go with automatically would be this dog.
My girl.
Perfect temperament. This would be like perfect temperament 101. Hey, you can go ahead and bring her on a leash.
So do a introduction to the pet first.
For fence first, just for safeties. Again, they may bark and growl. That doesn't mean they're not compatible. It means the initial induction needs to be a little bit different. He's super down, and again, he's perfect to learn on because he's jerk 101 for the most part, which is awesome. So go ahead and bring her in, and we're gonna walk. I'm gonna walk away from her. We're basically gonna do a big push. And then if you want to walk the opposite direction. This is dominance. Again, she's got the perfect temperament. he could, the first thing when they met, she tried, he's like, stop. And now they're going to start to be like, it's okay.
If there's anything I know about my girl, she's sturdy.
This would be the dog, if you have this dog in the shelter, can go with anything.
Yeah, right.
Also, Amanda is willing to donate time if you guys want to send out dogs, dog friendliness. This is the dog you would want to send out with first. Again, he's not dog friendly. It has to be the perfect dog. He's playing his or he's still being a jerk.
Does he ever get to play?
No, he doesn't ever play.
Really?
He's pretty much always a jerk.
Well, his
Watch his
tail-
mannerisms.
Yeah, he's.
None of him is relaxed. Her tail is naturally curved, but her whole body is a little bit more relaxed. And if you see the hackle, his whole body is puffed out. He's more like, hey, this is fun, we're gonna play.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a Greyhound Border Collie and a Chihuahua Red Terrier. And the Greyhound is definitely like the alpha of the two of them. Like, they're their thing. But when we play, my little one always has our whole hackle every time.
Hackles is not aggressive.
Okay, so just to be like bigger and be like, okay.
Hackles are excited. When we do protection work with him, he keeps asleep, he gets excited to hackle.
Okay.
There's no aggression yet. It's coming, but
Okay. I know that she's never
Nico,
gone after
hey.
her.
Come here,
So
come.
letting a dog like Nico out and play with another dog like this, is it really good for them? Or does it kind of be
She's not stressed at all. She's having fun.
like a dog like living in the shelter?
I probably wouldn't mess with playing with it. He doesn't want to play with her.
Yeah.
She wants to play with him. She's like, oh yeah, this is fun, this is awesome. He's like, I don't think we're gonna play. Now he's ignoring her. He's like, I don't want to do anything. And like I said, that would be 101, like perfect temperament. This one would be super dominant. Everything in his posture is mess up and it's going to not be fun. Again, the chance of her messing up, she's so easygoing that she could probably actually snarl at him. Her personality is not dominant. So she can snarl at him like really rough and she's like, that's fine. Because she's not done bad. Yeah, we can try her.
Do it.
She's like,
Anybody but.
Yeah, my face.
Let's try Pharrell. He really doesn't like it.
Okay.
yeah.
What are you talking about?
Tail wagging is not necessarily good.
And Pharrell is neutered.
Yeah, the movie exercise, he's not hitting the dog at all right now. Nope, leave him alone. He'll study like when he barked, Riley's like, no, he kind of walked away. Nico didn't walk away. He's like, okay, if you're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. All of this is rubbing up against the fence, head up. And that's not an aggression, that's a huge insecurity. Aggression is going, yep, he is insecure.
Because he told me a small person.
Hey, Nico, come. Hey, come here.
You're still not going?
This is a little bit more relaxed. Like I said, he's the perfect dog. If I were to get a second dog, this would be the one I would choose. Just because that would be the dog that, if a dog is going to get along with a dog, it's that personality. Nico, hey.
I'm serious. I'm serious.
Go friendly, we can engage and play.
I wasn't sure if
He is comfortable enough with her because she's not. She doesn't care. This is a friend you could actually have.
dizzy.
She doesn't care. So she's like whatever. And yet this dog has fought with so many dogs
Yeah,
because he's a jerk.
yeah.
And you have to be really careful when you match up dogs. And like I said, she could really bully him at this point. He's not gonna care. He's like whatever. This is completely awesome.
I think Toby got his ear.
No, it was whoever adopted
Oh, it
him.
was Jax. Jax got his ear in India too.
Oh, I
In India too.
Come here.
I thought
Come,
Toby got his ear.
Sit.
He came back. Remember
Hey,
the
sit.
Hey, Riley, come back.
And right there, if I didn't trust my dog, I would have gotten killed. Hey, but this is that. These are not getting along.
Okay.
So,
Come on.
Okay. She's just like, what is this? What is this? What is this? But if you know, she's not fighting that. She can she's like, I don't really know what you're doing, but I think it's gonna be okay. This is a dog you also have to protect. Because she thinks everybody's her friend. Not everybody's a friend. This would be a dog that would get hit, and it would ruin her personality. She'd be like, I don't know what happened.
So do you think that's what happened to him because he got into fights and stuff?
We're not playing.
No.
It could be. I don't know which one is the aggressor.
Because when he
of
left,
it.
when he went to NDSU,
Right.
we had no signs of him being this aggressive with dogs ever.
It
And
could
then he
be.
came back this way. And Toby definitely attacked him, didn't he? Yeah.
It depends which one's the more dominant one. Sit.
Right.
I'm gonna have you go ahead and leash her really quick.
Right.
So you guys all got to see how she reacted. She's kind of curious, like what is, without also be the one I'm gonna get hit because I don't. She has no. That dog is not dominant in the body. She has no idea. And there is that marking. Him when he realized that he was being aggressive, he's like, oh, brilliant. We're going to play. This would be a dog fight where he's not going to give up, and he would do it until someone would quit eventually. It may not be the best quitting.
Do we have a little less aggressive dog than Corral? Yeah. Oh yeah, those guys. But we know they get along with other dogs, though, at least each other.
Well, I don't have any issues trying to with Riley. Riley's actually, she has been good. Yeah, it was Giselle.
Do you want me to
But
grab
she backed
another
off and was like, whatever.
Grab another one for now, just because I don't think we're gonna need that one. Okay. Okay, dominant behavior, head raised, curiosity. And that's okay, you can kind of let her, we're just setting like the behavior
Yeah.
first. She would automatically go to the fight. Which is awesome. Which is awesome because she would diffuse the behavior. Just walk her back and forth, walk both of them just back and forth. And you can walk them semi-close to the bed. Don't like restrict them from it. We try not to do any leash pressure. Leash pressure will bring in aggression.
You want me to just let him act aggressive?
Yep, just keep walking. Keep him moving. The more you keep the dog moving, try to stay away from that gap though. I don't want someone to get their nose through it.
You have a narrow tired. Low energy dog.
Go ahead and bring try him over there. So try to
Just stand over the last
attack. Two intact male, the chance of him getting a lot. You can bring her over just over there. We'll keep on this direction now. So right off the bat, huge dominance. Nico is like, let's go. Hey! Up! Come here. Nico, come! Slut. Yes. So intact dogs, the chance of them actually getting along, unless you really, really know what you're doing, intact dogs aren't going to score.
How about like, what are your thoughts on male, female, spade, not spade, and male,
Anything fixed is going to be aggressive. Good point. That's why he's intact. His whole point of him being intact is to be aggressive. Unless you get a dog that is meant to be passive, like Riley, her not being fixed is never going to do anything. It doesn't matter. His not being fixed, even if I neuter him, his aggression is there.
Good boy. Good boy.
Good boy. For contractors, you might find it. Fix them, they can use it. For aggression, you use support work dogs. That if I neutered him sooner, that would cut down that aggression. Which is why you keep him. But if you notice, every time he needs a dog, even Riley, who's super passive, up has over hackle or up, and that hackle is an aggression. It's a I'm going to pump myself up. We're going to see if he's going to get along or not. He's most 95% of the time does not get along with them. Because he's a jerk, and normally they react, and then he goes into aggression. Now, come here.
I love that you think you're
And Riley, I would do a lot of cohabitation first, walking the fence, walking the fence, walking the fence, until they don't care that they're there. When they don't care that they're there, you move to the walking in the circle around each other. It's always a really slow process, so you become like a doctor that while they're not feeding the dog. Make sure you have at least an hour to do the acclimation period, because if they meet head on, the chance of a dog fight that stresses the dog, that's not natural. You can bring her back over. She's good. You can let her loose too. She's okay now. And like I said, this way, if you're testing out aggression, I would use this one just because she doesn't.
Hi, Black Lab.
Trying to get her to pay attention.
That surprised me. You're the nervous, nerdy one.
Like I said, a truly dominant dog will bring the worst out in every single dog.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how good they are.
That was a surprise to
In
me.
this case, if you watch all of them,
What's going on, guys?
She's female.
if you want to bring her back a little, I just don't want Nico to redirect onto her, freak her out entirely. Just watch Eve's behavior. She's normally nervous and good. We've had dogs in class that will react like that purely because he's so dominant they don't know what to do. And all this kennel pacing. Nico, come here. Come. Like I said, watch even the way he's trotting. It's all tough, all extremely dominant. You see a dog like this, chances are it's an only dog, just to be on the safe side. They have to be a really, really experienced owner and have to be okay with getting a Riley dog for the rest of the dog's life. Just because he will bring out the worst in every single dog there is.
I think unless you have a dog that's working like him, a Riley dog is really kind of ideal because it's really nice.
Hey, and like I said, so she normally probably doesn't react like that. If you have a doctor that has a dog like this, I told him by the way. Even bringing in a puppy, he's good with puppies. They hit 4 months old, he's like, I want to kill you. Yep, he'll be good with it. Puppies have a puppy card. Puppies are really, really hard to dog test because all puppies have a puppy card. Although he has bully puppies because he is a jerk.
I'm surprised that puppies don't fall into that because you said he likes to go after little dogs.
Yeah, but puppies have a puppy card. Dogs know a puppy and they will tolerate a lot. She's still trying to be compliant. Her tail's wagging. Her body is super, super.
But she's just ignoring them.
She's more stressed out.
Okay.
Like I said, she wants nothing to do with him at all. And he's very, even though he's acting like he's ignoring her, he knows exactly where she's at. And if she were to screw up, he would let her go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and if you want to bring, what's that one name?
Black Lab.
Okay, we're going to bring Black Lab to the corner. Yep. We're going to bring Riley in. Okay, we'll bring Riley over here. Notice normally by these plastic dollars, because these other dogs, get him to go
Harder
down.
for him to do it.
It's really hard. Okay, so we're just trying to avoid this fence because he's just going to bring stress. Basically trying to get in near the general area and then just walk around in a circle trying to avoid it. Riley's like, this one.
Is part of that because she's already kind of set off by him?
Part of that is because of him. That's why he's a nervous dog. That's not aggression. That is, I'm going to defend myself before you get me. Even though Riley's like, I don't know why you're doing it. She would much rather be the biter than to get.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, everyone else just kind of don't touch her. We don't want her to rebound off of anybody. Here, girl. And that's okay. She can kind of do her own thing.
What is that?
That's okay.
Oh.
It's not like that. That's okay. And then Annie, you just kind of want to walk her close to this direction. But this one they're annoying. Good fight. Oh my god. Eventually they will play. Notice Nico ignored Briley first. 10 minutes later they're like, okay, we can play. This is okay. Normally you wouldn't pet the other dog. I would never pet that one. No, might be okay. This one isn't going to be aggressive over it. And that's okay.
Okay, come here.
Okay, that is the fine here.
Come on.
And then just kind of keep walking. And Riley's smart enough to stay away. Her contact, she's probably not going to lose contact. And there's not going to be a punch. Just walk her away. Yep. You don't ever want to do that. So that is an attack mentality. And they might go after the other one.
with her, but this is her.
I kind of just and they're probably okay. People that Riley, she reacted absolutely perfectly. She handled it perfectly. She didn't get away. She was just like, I'm going to back up.
Come here.
But she didn't create it worse by running and yelping. She handled that like any stable.
He's
stable
not
dog
saving you.
should.
Come here.
And if she walks by you, just walk away. If she stands by you, just you need to walk.
If she wants us to save.
Yep, the main thing is movement going.
Come on. Come on, girl. Let's go.
You gotta walk away, Drake.
I'm in the way. But if you notice how Riley is handling it, she's really good.
He just looks at her like, what are you doing?
And everyone should, like I said, if you have to make sure you walk away. And like I said, gut reaction is to pull the dogs away and go
Uh-huh.
quit.
I think this is the dog.
Well, when, tell you what, you know my number when
No,
you get
Riley
there.
is just like I said, this is a dog that is completely stable mentally. She's
You should come to my house sometime.
smart enough to know.
She's just gonna go find her friend.
Riley's the playboy.
Yeah, what?
It's not relaxed. Riley's like, you're fine. Relax.
Like, look at.
Not a big deal.
Well, when Charlie did the play bow and barked at her, she was like, wait a second.
Yep, and like, if you have these dogs together enough, Riley by herself would take this dog out of her insecurities by itself. You wouldn't have to do training to get it out. But you would need the perfect stable. This is not something you do with most dogs. This has to be a completely raised, absolutely right, perfect temperament, perfect dog behavior, perfect mannerisms. Nico would not be the dog for this. The minute she did here, he'd be like, I'm going to eat you.
Aww.
Part of the breed with Riley.
Not necessarily. She's a Great Pyrenees, right? Sometimes they're a little bit more dominant. Not as nice. I don't know where you got her from, but it was probably a really good breeder and did a good job matching dogs. Because this is, I was gonna say she probably wasn't really cheap. She probably cost a pretty penny for that.
Oh, the gas alone cost a lot of money.
At the time I came from a rescue in Cross, Wisconsin. Her mother was a show dog that was abused pretty heavily, lost her tail. So she was obviously not going to be showed anymore. But her father is a well-bred dog that he works in the rescue to like rehabilitate the other dogs to be Great Pyrenees guardian breed
I was
dogs.
gonna say, this dog would be the dog that would rehabilitate a ton of different dogs all by herself. Notice And that
It
was
was. It should be at least 8, but I know some people put it like.
and that was so I thought I had to bang and please because I needed them for school.
Yep.
And she's like, normally I don't do it for school. Because they do bite inhibition, they do a ton of stuff on puppies and litter beans. That if you take them too soon,
They just don't learn it.
no. And a lot of rescue dogs are probably taken at like 5, 6 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Because people say it's okay because they're mean.
And they
They miss all those whole
they
things.
get like when they see their litter.
Yeah, but also, a singleton puppy is a huge concern. If your dog is born and it's the only puppy in the litter. If that ever happens in a rescue, try and take them from the mom and get them with a different litter. You don't want them as a singleton puppy. That is one of the hardest things. Breeders out there they won't learn. Their whole social skill is off. They have no idea they can't coexist with other dogs. Yeah. I've had my, not the breeder I got them from, the people that I went to school from, that breed shepherds too. She has a little puppy. Their dogs go for almost $3,000.
Please feel about that for life.
Breeder, Marcel and Reagan, because they had a litter of like I'm not keeping us alone.
Just keeps trying.
Notice already the black lab is becoming more comfortable though. She let Riley get closer before she reacted.
And her tail is she's not completely like
Yeah,
curled
all
up
of
to
this is
herself.
pretty simply she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know how to react. This would be something you can't do through training. You need another dog to teach them how to actually be a dog. I can't get on all fours and act like Riley right now.
It'd be kind of funny, but I don't think it'd be effective.
I might have to strap on a tail.
Well, you still have that dog suit at work?
It's got a big tail on it.
They seem like buddies.
I was gonna say,
They
they're
don't
very
seem
together. I probably wouldn't let them be together. I would probably pull them in kennels by each other. I wouldn't let them have playtime together.
Really?
Just when we're getting adopted together next to them.
Oh.
And they team up. She probably gets along great.
She probably it wouldn't be good for them because I would think just letting them get their energy out and play together would be.
That's something where we'd rather have them bond with a human.
Oh,
To get
okay.
that human-human interaction.
Okay.
Versus letting them bond with their sister even more.
Okay, interesting. Because I would assume the opposite where it's like it helps them feel safe in their place because they have
That
it before.
it
But
does,
instead it makes
but
them
they
more
don't
stressed.
They only have their confidence that other dog is there. We took the other dog away from her. She has no, she just stands there. She gets in a place where Riley leaves her alone and just stands there. She has no confidence on her own. This would be another dog that getting her on like the wobble board and building up that confidence. You're like, hey, it's okay. You can handle this. This is something you have to be really careful with when you're doing it. Because a lot of, if she took it farther and went after Riley, you want to step in and fix it.
Uh-huh.
How many people have had to break up a dog fight? Go ahead and raise your hand. What? Breaking up a dog fight. How have you broken up the dog fight?
Back legs.
The wrong way because I never knew the dog.
Yeah.
Like,
It's kind of getting
The only thing you have to watch.
was totally in for him because I was in there by myself. And I was like trying to pull one away. I'm like, well, this is useless.
You want to go after the aggressor. Because if these two got into a fight and Andrew grabbed Riley, that dog is going to keep getting hurt. If you grab the black lab, say the black lab was the one that was attacking Riley, you have to figure out which one. Grab her first. Riley's going back on. Because I want nothing to do with that. If Nico got in a fight with another dog, we grab him first. Because he will keep going. That's where your dog handling skills have to be 2 and 2 because he will redirect onto the person that is grabbing him. The best thing is, anytime you're doing any kind of dog-to-dog interaction, even if they're super, super friends and they look like they're okay, until you know that dog back and forth, I would keep leashes on as a quick getaway. Even if they came, like they've been together 3, 4, 5 times and they're okay, there could be something different. There could be a toy. There could be numerous things that could make that possession or aggression come out. And then you're kind of in trouble, especially if you're by yourself. I never recommend doing 2 dogs that you don't know by yourself either. Always have 2 or 3 people. Also, has anybody heard of shaker cans? They are amazing. I would have them in these yards, especially even doing like intro fences. Those shaker cans will help you tremendously.
Is it the same thing as like a clicker? Is that just a strap?
Nope, it's a can. It scares them. Or air horns, anything like that that makes a loud noise.
We have a couple.
just to get that distraction in there. Hoses work well too. Anything that can get that distraction in there. Notice how she's kind of taking notice. She's like, I don't know, but she still hasn't really moved. She still is not one to really move and go towards the other dog, which is completely okay. We don't want to force her. We're not going to be like, hey, come here, just sniff the dog, because that will cause her to bite. If we make her do it, if we corner her and make her put up with it, even though she doesn't want to bite. She has no desire to bite Briley at all. And just from getting to know dog behavior, like when Andrew did grab Briley, gut reaction, you want to save his dog, he's like, come over here, go take this, which is normal, most people will do it. But from being around dogs numerous times and doing this numerous times, first second we even met her, I knew she's not going to do anything.
So if we got
And the reason for that, but it's kind of like if you walk up and say, "Oh, it's okay," is that like they're gonna think that it's okay to be scared?
Yep, you don't want
Kind
to.
of like a reward.
It's better because to actually reward the right action is really hard to do. It's better not to be involved with dog-to-dog interactions at all, ever, in all honesty. With him I did, because I know him way too well. Again, that's why we have the collar on. Normally you don't ever want to add an aggressive technique to any aggression, because pain causes more aggression. With him, it's so bred into this kind of dog that me correcting him is like, hey, you need to listen to me. And we have the relationship that when I said, hey, come here, and he didn't acknowledge me, he knew the shock was for not coming to me, not for sniffing the other dog. If you did it too soon, he would associate that stress with the other dog, and it would cause an aggression, which a lot of time people accidentally do without even knowing it. When they're walking the dog, you're like, hey, come on, and they're like stressing the dog or grabbing the dog or making it a horrible experience.
Well, that's what you do, and mostly they need another dog because you just want
Yep.
to get them away.
And that's a gut reaction. Like I said, make sure you know first 100% that you're okay, because you don't want to put a dog in a bad situation, especially like a dog like Briley, because she's so friendly that if she got nailed too many times, she would go fearful. She'd be like, I don't want to. I don't want to be with these dogs anymore because it's starting to hurt. Where he is going to be the aggressor. He looks for the fight. Any dog with his personality, I would say single dog home always. Just because he will look and look and look. With the second lab, he picked until she barked, and then he's like, oh, let's go. Right off the bat. Which Riley, he did it to Riley too in the beginning. He's like, oh, pick. She didn't care. She's like, I don't know what you're doing, but that's fine. I'm just gonna bounce it off. Then they were able to play. He's like, okay, we can actually be okay, and I can release myself with you, because she handled it the right way. The chance of getting a dog like that is not high though. That's really slim, especially with the Pyrenees. That's not super common because they're more standoffish anyways. Again, I would utilize her for like getting a dog used to dogs. I would take her and another dog walking a lot. We don't want to do the introduction right off the bat. I did it because I know I was watching them closely enough, but you want to start out walking and just walk them, be far apart at first and then get closer together, and then put them away, and then do it again and again and again. Dogs can learn how to be socially acceptable with other dogs without having to be put in their place first. Any other questions on the dog-to-dog intro? Yes.
Just kind of related to that, and like my personal dog, when I'm walking her, she's fine and normal most of the time, but there are times where she just will, like, sometimes if the other dog is chill, she'll walk by and she's fine. But then other times she'll just start like lunging at the fence, and then I do the pull back thing, and I'm like, I don't.
That's instinctual.
Yeah, like to try to correct her. So it's like, but what am I supposed to do to teach her to not?
That's where you want to kind of get in the way, defensive handling, cut them off, be like, let's go.
Okay,
Let's
so
go.
I do that
Claim
too,
the
where
space.
I just kind of hold
Yep,
them
you
away.
want to just get in the way, again, safety first.
Yeah.
If you have to pull back, do that instead of get bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I would walk into him first. With him, I do have that command call. I think I had it on last
Yep.
class.
Yep.
Because he will aggress, and that's
Okay.
just stop. I want you
What
to
if
stop.
it's
And
your
I've got
dog
better.
though that's, I mean, like I'll be walking Molly and another dog will lunge for her and she'll trip me to get, what do I do?
Best thing is keep moving. That is, it's hard, but if he's fighting another dog and I keep walking, he eventually has to walk with me. Dogs do better with movement.
But what do I do with the other, sometimes the other person will have this aggressive dog and they just don't know what to do. So I have to do something for my dog.
With that, use your leash. If your dog's not aggressive at all, put the leash out in front. They're going to go for what moves if you can keep your
Okay.
dog calm enough. That's where I would
See,
do a
my
lot of
instinct is to
obedience.
pick her up right away so that the
You don't
dog's
want
not
to
gonna
pick her
bite
up because the minute you pick her up, that makes the prey move even more. It's up high then. I had an aggressive Yorkie before I came here. He was in a plot. He was great until she snapped and went after me. She was up high. He lunged for her. Luckily, I've got good enough control. I'm like, knock it off, put him in a plot, and he dropped. But he would have gone after her. She was up high. Every time the owner picked that dog up, he got antsy. Just because it's moving and it makes the owner go like this. And that's like waving a toy around in circles. It's like, hey, look at this. But if they're on the floor, they see it more as a being versus a tug toy.
That's just an instinct because I have
It
little
is.
dogs and I always want to, when the dog comes running to us, I'm going to pick him up and just.
Yep, it is hard, and like I said, most of the time, 95% of the time, he's the dog. He will run and lunge at other dogs. If the other dog keeps moving and walking away, calmly, you don't want to take off running, because that just increases the prey drive. But he has gone after other dogs, and if the other dog just keeps walking away, it diffuses everything. Movement diffuses everything most of the time.
What if if I'm outside with my dog one day and the idiot 2 doors down from me has their dog out running around loose because they do that, and this dog is like, you can tell he's because the first time he saw my dog, he got into a really alert position.
Yeah.
If he takes off after my dog, can I? And my instinct's gonna be to pick my dog up to protect
Right,
him.
exactly.
Best thing, if you know what's going to happen, have like a stick, like a walking stick, and just
Okay.
kind of put it in front of the dog. Create space, create a boundary around your dog to create the space, to move it. That and the dog will go after the stick. They'll go after whatever's really, really moving first. Or an air horn, something loud, a shaker can. If you have a problem with a neighbor's dog or something like that, try to prevent the issue. It's never better to pick up the dog. That can actually cause behavior issues in your dog because then they know something is wrong right off the bat. If you're like, oh my gosh, come here, they're going to maybe bark and react because that something is very, very wrong. If you stay calm, your dog will stay calm 10 times more. Like the Yorkie bit my hand numerous times. Stayed calm by the end of the session. Both me and the guy that was with me were able to pet the dog. Even though she bites, if you touch her face, she bit anybody. By just being calm and assertive, like, hey, stop. I don't care what you're doing right now, which is the hardest thing to do human nature-wise. We want to panic and be like, hey, come on. Prime example, Andrew, he's like, come here. When the other dog went after Riley, if you stay calm, it diffuses a lot of things right off.
Normally I pick her up, but
Normally I'd pick her bigger dog. But no, he didn't. He put himself in between, which in all reality we'd rather have the dog fight than get bit too. Especially if it's a dog we don't know shots or anything like that. The chance of them actually puncturing a dog is very, very slim. Like he's been in more fights than I would like to admit to, because him and my roommate's dog at school were both intact males. They were both working dogs. And they would fight the fence and they'd fight the doors, and every single time, never punctured each other. At the end, we just let them fight it out. We're like, fine, have at each other. When we didn't care and we walked away, they stopped and they're like, why are you walking away? You're not making a big scene.
Well, this is no fun anymore.
And then we walked away. If there was nothing commotion, nothing feeding into it, eventually it just diffuses itself. Again, don't just start walking away if the dog's fighting, because you have to really know the situation first. This was months that we lived with these two, and they never punched each other, so we're like, fine, you have at it. You guys can roll each other and try and figure out who's dominant. They never did. We just walked away, and they're like, oh, I'd rather go with you guys because we were more important. Again, that's a relationship thing. He'd normally trust me to take care of the situation, although he likes to take care of it himself because that's him and all of his glory. But it's enough obedience. I'm like, stop. If I say stop, you need to just pause. Like with the dog, we had him meet the other dog bit him in the face. I said, you need to lay there, so he did. He didn't go after her because I did hold him down like this because I didn't want him to be able to stand up over her and make it worse. But he did remain calm just based off relationship and a lot of training and conditioning. He trusted me that I said, no, stop, just be calm. And he's like, okay, fine. She can bite my face. And she did. She kind of pulled on his lip and he sat there.
Is that with the Yorkie that you're talking
Yeah.
about? Okay.
Any other questions about the dog-to-dog intros?
Would you ever, like, say with any dog that's not socialized well, would you say they would need to live or be with, the more interaction they could have, the more positive interaction they could have with
Yeah.
other dogs, the better?
Yep, with
Because
like the
then they're
skittish
learning.
dog, I would start taking her with dog-friendly dogs. Walker, teach her it's okay. She doesn't know. She does not know that it's okay. She's trying to defend herself. We don't know her background. She could have been bit by a dog. She may have been raised, it could have been just the 2 dogs in the litter. She could have been taken 10 times too soon, which causes that reaction. So just condition her, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. The border collie I got hated other dogs. She'd go after him. She can go to the dog park now and be loose.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is there any way to kind of identify in certain dogs before they even get to the dog? I mean, the working class dogs, of course, but like, for example, Jasper was a dog we had when I first got here. He was a German Shepherd. Just loved people. He could jump up on them, stuff like that. But you would never know that he was bad with other dogs. Is there anything that would have stuck out?
You would have to really start. The best thing to do, honestly, is to watch a lot of dog-to-dog interaction videos. Watch a ton, learn behavior. I can tell right off the bat which dogs are going to be okay and which aren't. Riley, right off the bat, had no. She's not submissive, but she's not dominant. She's that even keel middle ground. He's as dominant as it gets. That top line dominant. The one that was scared was totally fear. Like right off the bat when she went after Riley, she's not going to ever make contact. Unless it's a dog like him with, he would push her until she did and then it would be a dog fight. But with a dog that's social enough, there's not going to be a dog fight. We want to try and condition that before we let adopters see that though, because that will freak out an adopter. They're not going to want their dog anywhere near that. Because if I didn't know better, I would be like, no, I don't want my dog to meet that. I don't want my dog to get bit. If we can have her comfortable enough and meet enough friendly dogs to take her back and enough social skills with other dogs, she won't act like that. She will eventually figure it out through positive experiences that, hey, dogs are fine, this isn't bad. We just want to make sure we don't put her with a negative dog because that will take her back to step 1.
Okay. I did a dog test on Saturday, and they actually ended up gotten a dog because it went really well. They were out in the yard playing, and Bear, who I adopted out, wanted to play, and Charlie was kind of like ignoring him, was tolerant of him, but eventually Bear just kind of left them alone, and I asked him, well, are you looking for a playmate for your dog? Because I don't think this is going to work out if you're looking for a playmate. They said, well, no, not really, we're just looking for a second dog to add. But, I mean, Charlie was ignoring Bear. I mean, is that going to be something that he's not going to tolerate after a while?
That would be what I would do. Ignoring is better than playing. 10 times out of 10, ignoring
Okay.
is better than playing. When they ignore each other,
Right.
notice Riley and Nico ignored each other eventually. When he did the dominant, I'm going to be a jerk, she's like, okay, whatever. He's a jerk. She's like, whatever. Eventually, he went off and did his own thing, and they didn't play.
Okay.
Eventually, she got him to. She's like, okay, let's play. Friends at school, she ended up adopting her rescue dog. They met each other. They wanted nothing to do with each other at all. They didn't even sniff each other when they first met. They're the best friends now. They play like crazy. But it's a built-up relationship. Dogs don't automatically get along right away. They're not like people. We're like, oh, I'm going to be best friends with you because I like your personality. The dog has to establish a relationship with the other dog first before they go into playing. So when a person is looking for a playmate, try and find a dog that acknowledges them, kind of looks at them, sniffs, and then walks away. And that's going to make bringing them into their other house better too, because they're not encroaching on the dog. He would encroach and encroach and encroach until the other dog reacted.
I have a question. I have a foster right now, a Min Pin, and he's turned out to be a really good dog. But we have a little terrier who had to have ACL surgery, and all of a sudden the Min Pin kind of went after him. Like, was it trying to be dominant? Was it trying to say, now that you're hurt, I'm going to be the dominant one?
It can be. Dogs are still more of a primal factor. Even the small ones, they will notice age, and they will notice weakness.
And he stopped after the terrier let him know that, hey, I'm still the boss.
Yeah, but it could just be a try. Like, I'm gonna see how we can go. Again, anytime you do like a surgery or anything weird, did the dog just come back from the vet too?
Yeah, he had just had the surgery, and he was just kind of.
The dog smells funny too.
Okay.
The dog no longer smells like the dog they knew. It's a totally new dog to them.
Okay.
Even though the dog is the same dog, they now smell like anesthesia and vets and people and dogs and cats and clinic smells. Most dogs view that clinic smell as bad. It's really, I would never, if I took him to the vet, even if he didn't stay there, I won't let him interact with another dog for a day because it's a negative smell. And they will react. It's hard to tell. You wouldn't normally get it or guess it, but if you ever notice, dogs don't like going to the vet.
Oh, yeah.
Almost none of them.
I noticed that one.
He doesn't care. In all honesty, he likes it, just because he's confident enough. Granted, I throw a ball in his mouth because he's bit vets before because they didn't listen to how to behave with him. I asked if we could muzzle, and they said no. First, I asked if I could hold him. They said no. And it was a new vet, and I'm like, okay, can we muzzle him because he will bite? And they said, oh, he'll be fine. And the first thing she did was lean over him, and he turned and grabbed her for side. Which I'm like, I warned you. Which, if you know your dog is in that position, really try and warn people ahead of time. If they still go through with it, I mean, that's their problem at that point. I didn't feel bad. I'm like, I point blank told you he doesn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I love my vet. I don't go to that one anymore. And vets are awesome. They don't do dog behavior though. Just like they don't do dog nutrition because they always push science diet, science diet, science diet. They don't do nutrition. They don't do behavior. They do the medical side of it. So with any kind, even I would never get like aggression advice from them because they don't know. They would just recommend like a sedative or some kind of medication for it, which 9 times out of 10 you don't need. I've only ever met one dog that did need it. She was so terrified that the owner wasn't working hard enough to bring her out, so they went the medicine route. Any other questions on that?
Would you ever,
Stop.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Really quick. Do you need Briley for anything else?
Nope, I think you're good.
Okay.
would you ever, like, muzzle 2 dogs and let them?
I would. If you have 2 really dogs that do not get along, don't get along. The school I went to, we actually did naughty dog play dates, and they would let them fight it out. Because half the time the dog needs to do that to realize, and when you let them fight it out, they very seldom actually do anything. And eventually they will give up, and they're like, well, this is pointless. The big thing is if you do that route, you have to have 2 really, really experienced people, probably more than that, shake your cans, and you don't want to get involved.
And zip ties.
Yep. You just want to let them, like if I were to muzzle him and let him eat a dog, actually police dogs do muzzle fighting for that reason. He's done muzzle fighting where you muzzle them and let them go after the person without a sleeve on. It hurts. But the most that's going to happen is like a few scratches on him because there's no punctures if you have the muzzle right. Mm-hmm. Before you do that, if you decide we're going to try that with 2 dogs that just are not getting along, condition them to the muzzle first. You don't want to slap the muzzle on and throw them in the air. Yes.
When you use a muzzle, do you use like the soft one or do you use a cage muzzle?
I prefer the cage.
Okay.
Personal preference, it doesn't really matter. I know we have the other thing we're going to kind of cover is clicker conditioning with aggression issues. A lot of dogs don't like their nails, teeth, eyes messed with because it's a bad experience.
Toby.
Do you have a dog here that does that?
Toby.
Okay.
He has
Toby
ear
had to be
infection
anesthetized.
also, I don't know.
It's like Molly.
Toby had to be anesthetized. That was ears so bad.
Let's say, is he still sore from his ears, or is
That
it?
I
was
don't know.
about 2
He's
weeks
not on
ago.
meds for his ears anymore.
Okay, we'll probably try it. It's probably more of a bad experience now. So if we could bring him out a bucket of food, does he have allergies, or can he do any food, or does he like?
Or no, he's on that special food.
Does he like his food, or is he?
I
He
think
gobbles it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we want to bring out some of his food,
Okay.
and then him, and then
He's
do we
not
have?
dog friendly.
No, I was gonna say, I'm not gonna have him with other dogs. Do we have a kennel I can just throw him
There's
into?
a right over there.
Perfect.
Bye, everybody.
You did wonderful.